Hey guys, we got a surprise new teaser for The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power today, with some new shots, some character confirmations, and I think some clues we can take away. Let's get to it. It starts with the camera moving through some fog to give us a shot of mountains, with some pools of water in the foreground. Next we get a new angle on the tower that was revealed in the Empire article about a month ago. We see there's a lake behind the tower, and presumably the river we see flowing in the previously released still flows from this body of water. There's also two figures walking on the bridge toward the tower. Presumably Arondir is one of them. Now it's believed that this is somewhere in Harad in the south of Middle-earth, but we'll dive more into the geography of this entire teaser in just a bit. We quickly cut to a couple shots of the Harfoot Sadok Burrows, who's looking at some kind of book with some glyphs. I'm guessing these symbols here are stars, which makes me wonder if this is somehow depicting a comet shooting across the sky, as if this is some kind of prophecy or event from the past. Perhaps this in turn will be interpreted to relate to Meteor Man, who as we'll see features prominently in this teaser. Shortly after the release, Joel Mariner on Twitter pointed out that some of these pictographs come from the work of M.C. Burkett, an archaeologist whom Tolkien used as a visual source for some of his own work, like the Goblin alphabet. These shown here specifically come from Burkett's 1925 work on European prehistory. So if you want to take a stab at translating this thing, I suppose that's your starting point, so good luck. In the next shot, we get our only line of dialogue from the entire teaser. Sadok is talking to somebody off camera and says, "The skies are strange," and looks up. While this comes after the scroll shot, I wonder if his observing of the meteor or something else in the sky actually leads him to dig out the book we see him looking at. I also initially thought he was holding an arrow in this shot, but it's actually just pierced through his clothing, so it probably just holds up a piece of clothing or something. It makes me wonder if this is a Hobbit-made arrow, or if it's something that they would have just discovered and made use of. Here we get our first shot of what is the main focus of this teaser, which is the meteor we first saw in the Super Bowl teaser back in February, and it appears to kick off a montage of people looking at it. First we have Gil-galad in a shot that was also in the Super Bowl trailer, so there's nothing new to report here. Next we have a wide shot of a ship sailing while a large flock of white birds circles around. We see this as Galadriel and a group of elves on a swan ship. Going back to the first shot, we have a light source near the top of the frame. I think most would immediately associate this with light from Valinor, and that these elves are sailing into the west. Another thing I noticed is Galadriel and the other elves seem to be wearing the same outfit that Galadriel has on during the shipwreck scenes in the first teaser. So probably RIP to a fair number of these elves, I guess. Now for playing out the Blessed Realm theory here, it could be that the elves are seeing their first glimpse of light from Valinor, but that they aren't permitted to enter for some reason, which leads to the shipwreck. I kind of wonder if this is the moment before disaster strikes. Perhaps these birds are giving us a foreboding feeling as they turn away from the light source. And soon after this, all heck will break loose and we'll see their boat destroyed. Now that's just an off-the-cuff theory, but in the few hours since working on this script, I've seen a lot of people convey similar thoughts. The next shot is another of the meteor, which may trick some into thinking the previous shot of Galadriel was her looking at it. But I don't think that's the case at all. She's definitely looking at those birds passing by. Next up is Durn IV, who's also looking up, but he seems to have a bit more grumpiness to his posture and facial expression here. This is another that I don't think is actually looking at the meteor, but rather perhaps he is looking up at Elrond, who we've previously seen in Khazad-dûm. Here we have a shot of what appears to be the same location for both Gil-galad's earlier shot and the crowning ceremony we've seen in previous images. It's not always easy to take these in when they're so short, but I really like this shot. I think it just looks really nice with the moonlight and the yellow of the tree and the lamps. I think this is quite obvious this is Gil-galad, and following behind appears to be either Elrond or Celebrimbor. The face to me looks a lot more like Elrond, but the color of the wardrobe looks more like Celebrimbor's from the next shot, where we have Elrond, Celebrimbor, and two elven guards, presumably also watching the meteor shoot across the sky. Now initially, I thought this shot matched with the previous one. It's certainly made to give us that impression. However, I don't think it's actually even the same realm of Middle-earth. We have Elrond, who's in the same attire that we see him in both Khazad-dûm and the promo image with Celebrimbor in Eregion. What I think we're seeing here is Celebrimbor and a couple of his soldiers escorting Elrond to the Doors of Durin, where he will enter the Great Dwarven Realm. I think this could still be them reacting to the meteor though, as their eyelines seem to travel a really long way for them to be reacting to something like the Doors of Durin. If this is the case, the previous shot of Elrond and Gil-galad likely doesn't immediately precede Gil-galad witnessing the meteor. Next we have Sylvan Elf Arondir and healer Bronwyn, you guessed it, looking up to the sky. And I noticed here for the first time that Arondir has a small leaf brooch, which is a nice touch since we know about the later leaf brooches that the Fellowship gets from the realm of Lorien. And while Galadriel is one of the Noldor, her people would be made of mostly Sylvan elves. And here we have our first characters who are seen in the same shot as the meteor. So we know for certain they are watching this unfold. And they hold hands because, forbidden love and whatnot. For this shot, we still hear the audio of the meteor shooting across the sky, though this is obviously an entirely different time of day and location than the previous shot. It's nice to see this shot in motion as opposed to the previously released still, as it's a really impressive looking vista. I also love the tiny details you pick up as you pore over these shots, like this bird flying in the distance. If this is indeed Tirharad, which translates to South Watch, this could be a watchtower along the border of Mordor or perhaps somewhere in the southern mountains. And at long last, we have a real-life person from Numenor instead of just statues. Numenorean characters have definitely gotten the short end of the promotion stick with this show, so hopefully there's more on the way. But here we have Tar-Miriel, who's the daughter of Tar-Palantir. Tar-Palantir is basically the last good king of Numenor before it fully plunges into darkness. And Tar-Miriel will undoubtedly be one of the Numenoreans butting heads with Ar-Pharazôn as he seeks to take the throne for himself. Also, in this shot we have white petals falling, which of course call to mind the coronation scene of King Elessar. I wonder if these are coming from the White Tree of Nimloth, which would logically place Tar-Miriel in the capital of Ar-Menellos. The soldier in the background here has the same emblem on his shield that we see in other Numenor shots from previous releases. And his helm looks like it may have a bit of that wing design that we saw for the Gondorians in the Peter Jackson films. Again, we have Miriel reacting to something, possibly the meteor. Whatever it is, it definitely makes her turn and stop in her tracks. Though it's worth noting that this seems to be daytime when all the other shots of the meteor have been at night. Next, we have a longer version of the shot of the meteor from the Super Bowl teaser. And the big news here is that we have our first confirmation of an ent in the show. Now, I guessed it way back during the poster reveals that we could be getting ents in this show, and I thought the recent Amazon ad all but confirmed it. But this is solid proof that ents will walk the forests of the Second Age. And in case you're wondering, Treebeard would definitely have been around in the Second Age, so he's totally on the table for potential characters in this show. There's 3 trees in this shot that move, which lead me to 2 possibilities. Either the smaller one in the center is an ent, and the 2 larger ones are huorns, and the ent is reaching out to calm this left one, or the 2 larger ones are an ent and an entwife, and this smaller one is a young enting, perhaps reaching out to its parent because it's scared. Personally, I think the latter is the most likely and most fun option. Also reacting to the meteor and confirmed in the same shot is Eleanor Brandyfoot, and yes, I did have to look up that name once again. And we finally get the moment of impact for the meteor, which is no doubt where Nori here will meet Meteor Man. Although since he survived all the way to the ground, I think he's technically Meteorite Man, but that doesn't quite have the same ring to it, I guess. Then we get a Rings of Power title screen. Side note, I kind of like the W that's like 2 V's put together, whatever that's called. I don't know, I'm not a font master, but it's kind of fun to look at. I don't think I've mentioned that before. And one last tease, we get some footage of Numenor, and there's 3 faces carved into the sides of the landscape here, as well as a statue of a man with horses, and there's a waterfall that flows from his hand. Now there's been some previous references to Numenorean horses so far, and while the Rohirrim are most famous in the Third Age for their love of horses, the Numenoreans were indeed no stranger to them. They were said to have been skilled in riding and loved the animals, and bred great horses that roamed across the plains of Mitalmar. Mitalmar is the central region of Numenor and encompasses the lands containing both the capital of Ar-Menellos and the eastern haven of Romena. While there's a chance this narrow waterway could be depicting the Cyril River and a boat flowing upstream toward Ar-Menellos, I think this is more likely to be a slight narrowing of the route to Romena. And quite possibly this will be the shot preceding the reveal of the port city with the Eärendil statue. I'm also really curious about this structure near the top of the frame. The narrow portion in the front gives off a bit of a Minas Tirith vibe. Now before the final shot, I wanted to take a stab at figuring out the trajectory of the meteor that everyone seems to be watching throughout this teaser. If we place the images of people reacting to the meteor on our Middle-earth map, where I believe they are, the stills seem to indicate that this could be the path of the meteor, which fits with the Harfoots being in the Vales of Anduin, which is their earliest known location. This could also explain why Tar-Miriel's is a bit brighter of a shot, as hers could be during sunset, where the rest come shortly after sundown. I will say the only one of these shots that doesn't fit is Elrond and Celebrimbor, as their eyes move screen right to screen left, when it should go the other direction if they're looking east. I'll be curious to see how this scene plays out in the show because I love when the cinematography accurately portrays the geography. Now, as for my predictions based on this teaser, honestly, there's not a ton to mull over here aside from the Galadriel boat portion. My best guess is that this moment with the meteor is something that happens at the end of the premiere episode. Perhaps episode 1 is a lot of establishing characters, relationships, and missions, such as Gil-galad sending Elrond to Eregion. Then at the end of the episode, we have this meteor come in that draws everyone's attention to a single point of focus that pushes many of these characters into action. I'm still not sold on the whole Meteor Man thing, as it seems pretty out of place on its surface. Unless, of course, this is some apparition created by Sauron in an effort to dupe the peoples of Middle-earth. He's certainly capable of creating illusions. I definitely get the sense that this meteor thing is serving as a tangible focus for all of Middle-earth to have something every character can have some level of awareness of and concern about. Whether it works or not, I think will come down to what the deal is with Meteor Man, who he truly is, and how the storyline is executed. And as someone who's much more interested in canon events, how much screen time is devoted to him if he turns out to not be a canon character. And finally, we get the reveal that there will be a new teaser on July 14th. So I guess this is a teaser for a teaser, which is kind of what they do nowadays. I'm hoping we'll soon get a full-on trailer of 2.5 to 3 minutes, where we can get some characters speaking dialogue and get a real sense for what's happening in Middle-earth. It's nice that we got a few more glimpses of Numenor, but I'm still waiting for some Elendil, Isildur, and Ar-Pharazôn. Maybe we'll get something on them in the lead up to the next teaser, or at Comic-Con in a few weeks. I definitely think the recent pieces on Gil-galad and Celebrimbor were the best articles for Tolkien book fans like myself, who are much more interested in canon characters than created ones. Hopefully we'll have more such things in store for us going forward. So what did you guys think of this teaser? What do you think's going on in the Galadriel boat scene? Where are Elrond and Celebrimbor, and what do you make of the Ents? Do you have any new thoughts on the Numenoreans? Let me know in the comments. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.